This video is a follow-on from the previous 15 videos dealing with price in the precious metals markets. If you haven't seen those videos, I'd recommend you doing so before watching this one. So let's pick up where we left off and continue to look at debt monetization. Let's now turn our attentions back to central banks and their government flunkies who operate in the vast majority of countries around the world. I've said this before and I will continue to say it. Debt is the product that central banks are selling. A butcher sells meat, a baker sells bread, a central banker sells debt. Bankers, be they ordinary high street banks or central banks, are in the business of selling debt. Debt is how the bankers, or rather I should say the banksters, make their money. As Gregory Mannarino of Trader's Choice on YouTube often says, we live in a debt-based system. He also refers to the bond market as the debt market. I should at this juncture say that it's not in the interests of central banks to ensure that governments are financially responsible. Indeed, getting the governments in debt is beneficial to them. Deficit spending by governments is what the central banks want to see happen. The more the governments spend, the better for the central banks. It's therefore no accident that we have huge national debts and Keynesian economics and MMT, etc. It's all done by design. It might be helpful to think of behaviours being incentivized. By the way, all the brouhaha concerning the debt ceiling recently is just pantomime. It's a production put on for the masses. They will inevitably raise the debt ceiling and will keep on doing so forevermore until we put an end to their operations. I plan on doing a short video about this topic sometime in the future. It's perhaps not so difficult to understand this idea about debt and debt monetization as discussed in this and the previous video, but maybe you're asking yourself why would they want to destroy the purchasing power of their respective currencies by means of inflation and hyperinflation, especially as with high inflation rates what they get back in terms of their currencies is losing value. This has to do with the fact that central banks can benefit from the fiat currencies while they still have some value. So especially in the early stages, and also while the public still have faith in the currencies that they use. So that's really up until the final stages. Up until then, the people that own and operate central banks can use the currencies to buy things of real value and enrich themselves. Then the system crashes, they simply reboot and start the process again. It's a rigged system. In short, it's a con. The con only works because few people understand what's really going on. It relies on people's lack of knowledge about banking and economics, etc. And it also relies on their being trusting also. So basically, you're not supposed to know about this stuff. Oh, and I should say that they create the currency out of nothing. Cliff High refers to this trick as Babylonian money magic. So they are con men and they're also conjurers. I can think of other words beginning with C to describe them, but anyway. It costs them absolutely nothing to create the currency that they lend to the governments. What's more, they earn interest from this operation. So they get interest on the debt as well, of course, as being paid back the loaned amount, the principal. This is what a Londoner might colloquially call a nice little earner. In other words, it's incredibly lucrative. For those of you who are interested, I've produced a number of other videos on central banking which I'd obviously recommend you watching. The purpose of those videos is to outline the operations they engage in, and they also represent an attempt on my part to expose the con, enlightening whosoever cares to watch the videos. To my mind, they are criminals, and like all criminals, there's only one place they should be, and that's in jail behind bars. By the way, Mike Maloney on YouTube does a very good job of showing the operation of central banking, currency creation, and other things besides. I would highly recommend you watching his whole series, The Hidden Secrets of Money. Make no mistake, the central bank and their government flunkies are fully aware of the fact that fiat currencies have, historically speaking, limited lifespans, typically lasting no more than 50 years. Our overlords, the moneyed elite, or moneyed men as they used to be referred to as in Andrew Jackson's era, think in generational terms, keeping money in the family. It's what could be called a long con, and it enriches them and their families at the expense of ordinary people. So rather than see the limited lifespan as a disadvantage, they turn it to their advantage. To recap, it's my belief that they're going to move us from inflation to hyperinflation and monetize the debt. And then they hope to restart the system, but this time, because we live in a technological age, they aim to introduce CBDCs. I've done a whole mini-series on CBDCs for anyone who's interested in finding out more about the dystopia that they have in mind for us. If you think that central banks have your best interests at heart, you might want to reconsider. I only hope that enough people wise up to this con. I especially hope that enough people are aware of it before the crash happens, so that they can explain what's happening to others who don't understand, and then together we can do something about it to ensure that these criminals are brought to justice and also that it never happens again. So please share this video with whoever you can. We wake people up one person at a time. It would seem that there is a great awakening taking place, which is, as far as I'm concerned, a welcome thing. I just wish it was moving faster. But anyway, as well as getting rid of central banks and putting the people that own and operate them in jail, one of the ways to combat this state of affairs is to reinstitute a sound money system, i.e. returning to the gold standard. This would be a very good move in my opinion. I split this topic into a number of videos, so there's another however many to follow. In the next video, I'll talk about the gold standard as it relates to currencies and inflation and what this should mean for precious metals. Wise up and rise up.